All right, so uh, I got some feedback from a channel I watch. It's called Animal Watch. I can't pronounce the lady's name, uh, but she did a video about wolves, and she's a big animal conservationist person, and she particularly loves canines and canine breeds. Um, she uh, she has particular bent for wolves, and which is understandable because wolves, I believe, and there's a lot of research and fact-based truths, uh, which most people don't know. We got the Little Red Riding Hood. We got all these others, and it's like they make wolves out to be so vicious and destructive, and that sort of ignorance is just plastered throughout thousands of years, and that is expanded now into a more generalized way of if it's eatable, if it's disrupting our ability to make money, or or infringing upon our projected value of ownership, of making it a part of our property, and then it's just go kill them. And anyways, she commented back about a comment I placed on her video, and it was an older video. I think it's like 3 years old, and basically I stated, humanity is basically utterly ignorant and stupid when it comes to this, because wolves and other predators play a primary role in keeping the natural world healthy. They weed out the old, they weed out the sick, and so on and so forth. This makes it so that the weak and sick are weeded out, and there's a healthier population of the prey. And how we've basically become just a voracious, unthinking, uncaring species of rampaging killers. We just destroy everything in the natural world, and we don't question, because we have this human supremacy, and we're supposed to be different. And I've talked about this before. We consider ourselves different, more intelligent, more enlightened, self-aware. But how self-aware are we if we keep going around mindlessly consuming the natural world for our present feeling of well-being and safety? I'm not against not eating meat, and I'm not against mining responsibly to extract materials that we need for our technologies. I'm not against it, but I'm all for it. But if it's done responsibly, well thought out, with redundancies and plans to how to mitigate the destructive and toxic factors, such as how to when the usage goes down, how to be able to reuse it or convert it for other use. So we're not just dumping it and putting it in a hole or just tossing it out into the natural world. Anyways, I was actually kind of surprised to get a response from her for the comment I posted, considering how old the video was. And most of the time, those who do those videos, they don't generally respond. But you know, I was also going through the comments on that video, and it was a bunch of fucking egghead idiots. Not eggheads. These bunch of fucking macho, you know, moronic idiots. They're talking about, oh, the hot blonde is getting French kissed. Because one of the things, if you notice, your dogs like to lick, but they'll try to lick you in the mouth. And there's a reason for that. Just as when they smell you. The reason for that is they're trying to determine your health. And they're trying to get biological samples, because that's partly the way they do it. This is why they lick each other, and so on and so forth. It's a scientific biological fact. So you know, it's like 90%. It's like 90% of the freaking. I'm not more than 90% of the comments was all around that, making jokes, and there was no substance. And this is why, and this proves the stupidity, the rampant stupidity, which is a worse virus than the corona. And this is something that's been generational after generational for thousands of years. We keep pushing the stupidity, and the ones that get the ones that are hurt are the next generation, because we keep pushing the stupidity. And we don't want to listen. We ignore those who've actually done the legwork and the research, the mental and physical and emotional and spiritual work of looking into this stuff. And they're telling because they've looked into it for oftentimes for dozens upon dozens of years. And it was followed up by others who've done it, and others have done it. And that's the sort of thing that we call empirical. It's empirical evidence, because decades upon decades upon decades, the centuries, but we refuse to look at it. Why? Because it's oftentimes not put out. Why? Because we got a bunch of fucking pseudo idiots who call themselves journalists, who keep spouting crap. You got people publishing books, spouting that same sort of crap. I mean, or even in our entertainment, it still fills. We have not grown beyond the fear reaction. We don't want to think critically. We don't want to look at objective, common, natural truth. We're more concerned about immediate, obsessive, compulsive need for this idea of safety and security. And we keep allowing the real criminals to get into these offices, and they generally turn out to be dictators. And then we spread how everybody else is the dictator, except we're being dictated to. We live under authoritarians. And we look at semantic and surface crap, and we choose a side. That's not enlightened. That's not intelligence. That's not thinking. That's herd behavior. It's learned herd behavior. And much of what we humans call advancements, the basic advancements, we learn from observing the natural world. We learn from animals, showing us that, like such as animals going to salt licks, or animals finding, chewing on certain plants, or mineral, or licking minerals. We learned about health because we observed things, illnesses, and then watched as we watch them. These are stuff that's out there. We can get invested in the actual work and learn, but we refuse because we're more concerned about French kissing the hot blonde. The wolf is French kissing the hot blonde. Because we're more concerned about somebody who comes up with a fucking stupid logo of MAGA, Make America Great Again. We're more concerned with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell. We're more concerned about Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, or Jake Tapper, or fucking some other idiot from New York Times or the Washington Post, or with Sagar and Jetty, or Sagar of Assad, or Tim Pool, or some other fucking moron. And yes, I do get angry with this, because if we just do the work, and if we stop looking at work as making materialistic gains for those who already have it, if we look at it as, why should some fucking criminal asshole get to have the control through the very labor and mental work that those who actually do the research, who actually do the work, if we look at it and say, you know what, we don't need you. You're fucking useless. You have no value. You're a parasite. And if we look at things as, we as a community are the leadership, not some fucking random asshole who we've placed this arbitrary value on. And that's because it's a society thing. We've been brought up to think this way. We don't look at it in a critical, introspective way and see how that interconnectivity and understand. Why? Because we've been brought up to be lazy, stupid, greedy, deceitful. We've been brought up to be schizophrenic. Of course you're going to have mental issues in a society like that. Mental and emotional issues. Of course you're going to see people killing themselves. Of course you're going to see everything that everything that that's good in those quote unquote religious areas, because we've been brainwashed, we've been emotionally engineered to react that way. And that's the difference between the animal world and us. We can manipulate ourselves. We can fix the level of ignorance. We can control the level of fear and stupidity to go the opposite. But it basically comes down to we act on a base level. We don't act any different from the very animals in the natural world that we often condemn, that we often belittle. We are not exceptional. We are not part of the natural world. That it's that ability to deceive ourselves and write a reality and portray a reality that's outside of the natural world. It's that ability alone that makes us unnatural. That makes us unnatural. It takes us away from the natural world. It promotes the very thing that we need, and that's the natural world, the living natural world, which provides. We've made everything in the living natural world something to gain materialistically, emotionally. We're a species of metaphorical drug fiends, and that drug is this fantasy, this illusion of life, which is actually just an existence of self-destruction, of creating our own depression, our own feelings of there's nothing good, or a feeling that life is just one static, monotonous drive until we're born and then we die. And that first potential when we're young, when we're still developing, and then we could see the potential for a bright future, a glorious future, is brutally beaten down and destroyed from an early age. And even the most well-meaning and critical thinking who think they're critical thinking, they still do this. Why? Because they've been brought up to be this way. Because it's been reinforced. There are no innocence. There are no good, because we are brought in to the sick, twisted, self-destructive thing that we call human society. We are a sickness. And until we come to realize that, you accept that we are the sickness, that we are the pathogen, that in order to, and that we have the capability to change that and make the change if we do but the work. And the work is here, and here in the emotion. That's the spirituality. If we but do that, if we but really internalize it and become introspective and see how it's interconnected, and we place our passion and our will behind that, we can come back to being part of the natural world. We can do and get all the things that we do, but do it in a way that's not going to destroy us emotionally, physically, mentally, and it's not going to destroy the natural world. We can enhance the natural world. We can leave a better natural world. That is what we have. That's our potential. That is our purpose. Everybody wants to know what the purpose is. That's the purpose. What we do not have is purpose. We have accepted a gimme, and I'm going to take society. We have fed this sickness, this vile sickness, and we victimize the very offspring and children that we say we want and we love. From the second they are born, we have done this. And the things that we truly should be railing against is the ignore, which brings the ignorance. We want a static existence because we are brought up to think that static existence is safety and security, when it is in fact not. When it is in fact does not propel us. The years and time may pass, but we do not move forward. We may have clever innovations, but we do not move forward. We, in fact, have gone backwards as we continue with our clever innovations to do more harm, more destruction, more poisoning of the natural world. We leave the natural world behind and we march ourselves to our own Armageddon. That is what we do. You know, I wrote another comment back, and she said, you know, write or contact your representatives in your government. And I wrote a comment back saying, essentially saying, until people find an awakening, and awakening is what I'm talking about, and until they realize in that awakening that those that they've placed their faith in to be the leaders are nothing more than opportunistic, parasitic crooks, self-centered crooks, and that we don't need leadership, that we as a community, with clarity, become the leaders, that we don't need this idea of a God. And that's another historical thing that's been pressed, is that this idea of gods. Oh God, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But, you know, one thing I get from a lot of religious stuff, including Christianity, but there's outside of the contradictions and the flat-out stupidity that's in those, is that The whole thing is be the leaders. That is what that's the essential core of the message. Be leaders. Be leaders. Care. Have the will. Have the drive. That's the core message. Open your eyes. But even there, we miss that mark. We miss that insight. Why? Because we want to ignore. We get distracted, and because we've built a society of distraction, of ignore ignorance, and we have accepted this idea of value, of some materialistic value, which has no basis in reality, which has no basis for the actual happiness, for the actual idea of freedom or liberty, or anything that we want to say we hold in mental and emotional value, morals, ethics, principles, all that. There is no value. It's all an illusion. It's all a fantasy. It's all in our minds. And our minds and our emotions and our body are at war. And because of that war, we are unbalanced. Because of that, we have no clear spirituality. And because of that, we hurt each other. We vilify each other. And yes, I know the irony that I use the word morons and idiots and all that. But that's the thing. I say it because I have found a balanced center, and I base it on truth, a factual truth. Just using it isn't bad. It's how we don't take the overall and just say, "Oh, look at that, how angry and vitriolic how he likes to use the word moron and idiots and so on and so forth. How he's trying to. That's what a lot of people will get. Why? Because they want to ignore the overall message coming from this. Because I have done things that are moronic. I have done things that are idiotic. And I have contributed to the insanity. But I do these videos to demonstrate my growth, my understanding, how closer I'm getting to more clarity. And that is real work. Driving a truck or going to the fucking, working at a grocery store or a factory or creating motherboard, coming up with the idea for a motherboard and all. That's not fucking work. Real work is coming to understand. It's easy enough to make shit that's gonna, and you don't take into account all the other factors and redundancies and responsible ways to produce it beforehand. That's just intellectual babble. But we can have all of that. I keep saying we can have all that, but it has to be forward thinking. It has to have clarity And without that, all we're doing is providing for our own misery. Thanks.